Welcome back to KOENIGSEGG'S DAGBOK and welcome to episode 8 where we'll be talking about the speed demon, i.e. the AGERA as you see right before you. And although this may look similar to that of the AGERA, this was a complete speed demon because this thing broke and set 6 Guinness World Records. And this thing was a proper beast on its own. And this thing of course had a couple enhancements in terms of the engine, mainly the engine, and in terms of speed, as well as a couple new design elements such as exposed carbon fiber on the bonnet, the splitter, new side winglets, and new aero exhaust as well. And of course it had the same 5-liter twin turbocharged V8. But this took after the CCXR lineup because this thing could also run on E85 or E100 biofuel or ethanol if you will. And this thing with ethanol in the tank could boast 1140 brake horsepower and it could generate 1200 Nm of torque. And of course with normal 95 octane or normal pump fuel, it could boast 960 brake horsepower and it could generate 1100 Nm of torque. But nevertheless, a proper speed demon, and of course it upped the power with ethanol in the tank, of course, with a red line of 7500 RPM, that 5-liter twin turbocharged V8 sang on a whole nother level. And of course the AGERA also saw the debut of KOENIGSEGG'S very own ceramic piston brake system, and this thing actually set the new world record. It is in fact one of the 6 world records that I mentioned in the start, and this actually was a proper record breaking brake system because this thing in fact helped and set one of the most notable world records, and that record is actually the fastest two-seater production car to go from 0 to 300 km an hour and back to 0, and the record was 21.19 seconds, and it was set by the AGERA at the hands of Robert Swansky at the Ängelholm airfield in Sweden. Home ground, home car, a new Guinness World Record. And it was only later eclipsed in 2015 by its younger brother, i.e. the KOENIGSEGG 121. But nevertheless, a proper speed demon, of course, carbon fiber Kevlar reinforced body as well, a new interior with power windows and adjustable steering column as well as the pedal box, power windows, a completely new digital audio system with Apple CarPlay and USB connection, as well as the leather or Alcantara option interior with AGERA style stitching with AGERA R embroidery of course, and of course the front and rear hydraulic lift system. And it obviously came with a double wishbone push rod operated Erlen's gas hydraulic shock absorbers in the front and the back, with the KOENIGSEGG triplex damper in the back, and of course with the KOENIGSEGG Z progressive and lightweight anti-roll bars in the front and the back, thereby showcasing that this thing was a proper handling monster, and the fact that this thing was rear wheel drive didn't at all hinder it in any way in terms of top speed and in terms of track weaponry. And of course this thing topped out at 273 miles an hour, and this thing had a production run from 2011 to 2014, and only 18 AGERAs were ever made, not as rare as the AGERA, but nevertheless this thing being the speed demon was in a whole other realm of its own compared to the AGERA. And obviously the other 5 records, obviously along with the fact that the most notable one was a 0 to 300 km an hour and back to 0 record, which it did in 21.19 seconds. Special thanks to the ceramic piston brake system. And the other 5 records are as follows, starting off with the 0 to 200 mile an hour record, which it did in 17.68 seconds. Next on was the 0 to 300 km an hour record, which it did in 14.53 seconds. So this thing had a proper torque and a proper top speed. Along with the fact that this was rear wheel driven, this thing was still a beast and boasted some phenomenal times. And of course 6 Guinness World Records was set by this thing alone. And of course, as I said, the 21.19 0 to 300 km an hour and back to 0 record was later eclipsed in 2015 by its younger brother, i.e. the KOENIGSEGG 121. And the next one is the 200 mile an hour and back to 0 record, which it did in 7.28 seconds. And the next one is the 300 km an hour and back to 0 record, which it did in 6.66 seconds. And to finish it off, the 5th and final record was the 0 to 200 mile an hour and back to 0 record, which it did in 24.96 seconds. And of course, as I said, the 0 to 300 km an hour and back to 0 record, which it did in 21.19 seconds, thereby making it 6 Guinness World Records set by the AGERA at the hands of Robert Swansky. But to showcase how legendary the 0 to 300 km an hour and back to 0 record of 21.19 seconds was, when it actually decelerated from 300 km an hour and back to 0, i.e. a dead stop, Robert himself let go of the steering wheel and it came to a dead stop in a straight line without going either way, thereby showcasing their engineering craftsmanship, which no other Kamaki had even come close towards. And of course, that also hands it to the new ceramic piston brake system, and of course, the same magic being worked on by the KOENIGSEGG electronic stability control system. So this thing, along with the fact of engineering, max power, top speed, engine, everything on its own was just a perfect equation for this, and a near perfect weight distribution, as I said, for 44% to the front and 56% to the rear. So this thing with engineering, power, engine and everything else, this thing was a proper hypercar of its day. As I said, only 18 made, making it quite not as rare as the AGERA, but nevertheless a legend on its own. I mean, 2011 back then it was environmental friendly. That wasn't enough for them. They had to go furthermore and set 6 Guinness World Records, had and put on some phenomenal numbers on the board as well. And of course, it could also accelerate from 0 to 62 miles an hour or 100 kilometers an hour in 2.8 seconds, and it could also accelerate from 0 to 124 miles an hour or 200 kilometers an hour in 7.8 seconds. And it could also accelerate from 0 to 124 miles an hour or 200 kilometers an hour and back to 0 in 12.6 seconds, thereby boasting some phenomenal numbers on paper. And of course, a hats off and a brilliant engineering marvel, and that was the ceramic piston brake system along with the Koenigsegg electronic stability control system, of course. And that flex fuel weird coming back and basically lifting up and taking the mantle from the CCXR lineup, along with the fact that that flex fuel system as well worked on a whole nother level and delivered on every single aspect. This engine was proper living proof and is living proof that Koenigsegg was capable of huge bangers all the way back in 2011. And of course, that flex fuel or fuel system, if you will, actually had a fuel flow similar to that which you would find in a 2000 horsepower petrol engine. Wow. And of course, that meant that the AGERA R had a returnless fuel system which had the highest capacity of any production car at the time. Wow. And of course, that engine was paired, i.e. the 5-liter twin-turbocharged V8 was paired to a 7-speed dual-clutch transmission with paddles, of course, and of course an E-diff, of course, the triplex suspension in the back. A proper handling monster on its own, 273 mile per hour top speed, 1140 brake horsepower with ethanol in the tank, of course, at the helm, 1200 Newton meters of torque, rear wheel drive, meaning that you could have fun in the corners how much ever you want. And of course, 300 kilograms of downforce could be produced by this at a speed of 250 kilometers an hour. Wow. What do you guys think, guys? It's the speed demon, the AGERA R. And not to mention that this thing was environmentally friendly. It picked up the mantle from the CCXR lineup, and that wasn't enough. They didn't just want to create a car which was environmentally friendly. They had to go and casually just set 6 new Guinness World Records. Now that's Koenigsegg for you guys. What do you guys think? Leave it in the comments below. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. Remember to hit that sub button and click the bell to ensure that you don't miss out on any future videos. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. See ya. Stay tuned for episode 9.